The rain came down in thin, icy sheets that morning, cutting through the quiet of the forgotten street where old, cracked houses leaned tiredly toward each other. Inside one of those houses, a single dim light flickered near a window. Behind that fragile glow sat an old woman named Martha Green, her frail body slumped in a wheelchair beside a peeling wall. Her silver hair was tied back with a faded ribbon, her hands trembling slightly as she tried to light the single candle on a small cupcake. A cupcake she had bought with the few coins she'd saved from collecting discarded bottles all week. That it was her 80th birthday. But no one knew. No one came. Her house was silent except for the ticking of an old clock and the distant cry of the wind through broken shingles. Her family, if they could still be called that, had long forgotten her. Her husband had died 30 years ago, and her only son, after falling into bad company, stopped visiting when she could no longer send him money. The neighbors barely noticed her anymore. To them, she was just another old woman who had outlived her time. But as she sat there in the flickering light, looking at that tiny candle flame, Martha whispered to herself, "Happy birthday, old fool." And then, with eyes glistening, she closed them, trying not to cry. Red heart if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of simple humanity. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe. Your support helps stories like this reach more hearts. Red heart. Outside, life carried on indifferently. Cars splashed through puddles, and laughter from a nearby bakery drifted down the street. But only one person noticed the frail figure by the window that day. A young man named Ethan, a single father in his early 30s. Ethan had just dropped his 6-year-old daughter, Lily, at school. His face showed the quiet fatigue of someone carrying too many burdens. Since his wife passed away 2 years ago, every day was a battle, balancing work, bills, and fatherhood. He barely had time to breathe, yet he always tried to teach Lily one thing: be kind. Always. That morning, as he walked past Martha's house on his way to the bus stop, something caught his eye. He saw her through the window, trying to blow out the tiny candle that kept flickering back to life. Her face looked pale, thin, and hopelessly tired. There was something about the way she stared at that cupcake, as if it was her last tie to the world, that made him stop in his tracks. For a moment, Ethan hesitated. He was late for work again. He had bills waiting, groceries to buy, and 1,000 reasons to keep walking. But something deep inside wouldn't let him move on. He turned around. When he reached the small wooden gate, he noticed how everything about the house spoke of long neglect. The paint had peeled away, the mailbox was rusted shut, and an old broken chair sat half buried in wet leaves on the porch. Still, he knocked gently on the door. There was no answer. He knocked again, this time louder. After a moment, the door creaked open just enough for him to see her pale eyes peering out, frightened and uncertain. "Ma'am," he said softly, "I saw you sitting alone by the window. I just wanted to make sure you're okay." She blinked, clearly startled by his kindness. People rarely spoke to her anymore. Her lips trembled as she whispered, "I'm fine, young man. Just another year, that's all." But Ethan could hear the loneliness in her voice. He smiled gently. "Happy birthday," he said. Her eyes widened. "How did you know?" He pointed to the cupcake still flickering on the table behind her. "That little candle told me." For a long moment, she didn't know what to say. Then her hand, frail and shaking, pushed the door open a little wider. "Would you like to come in for tea?" Ethan stepped inside. The warmth of the room was faint but comforting. He looked around at the faded photographs on the wall, memories of happier days now blurred by time. A young couple dancing, a baby boy laughing, and one photo of Martha as a young woman holding flowers, her smile bright and full of life. She poured tea with trembling hands, apologizing for the chipped cups. He noticed how every movement seemed painful, her body stiff and slow. Her wheelchair creaked whenever she reached for something. As they sat together, she began to talk. Slowly at first, then as if a floodgate had opened. She told him about her husband, who had been a carpenter, and her son, who used to bring her wildflowers on her birthdays before life pulled him away. She told him about the stroke that left her partially paralyzed 5 years ago, and how she'd been living mostly on her own since then. Her words trembled between sadness and resignation, yet there was still a faint spark of dignity in her eyes, like a candle refusing to go out. Ethan listened quietly, his heart heavy. He thought about his own struggles, The nights he stayed up worrying about Lily's future, the mornings he woke up to an empty side of the bed where his wife once slept. Life had taken so much from both of them. Yet somehow, sitting across from this old woman, he felt something shift inside him. When it was time to leave, he looked around the lonely room and said, "Mrs. Green, would it be all right if I came back later with my daughter? She loves birthdays and cupcakes." The old woman's eyes glistened. "You'd really do that?" Ethan nodded. "Absolutely." That afternoon, when he picked up Lily from school, he told her about the lonely old lady who had no one to celebrate with. Lily, bright and innocent, immediately said, "Can we make her a cake, Daddy? A real one?" So they did. Together they baked a small chocolate cake in their tiny kitchen, covered it with pink frosting, and added a single candle shaped like a heart. Then they stopped by a flower shop and bought a handful of daisies, because they were the cheapest and, as Lily said, they looked like smiles. When they arrived at Martha's house, she was waiting by the window, her eyes wide with disbelief as she saw them coming through the gate. Lily ran up to her and handed her the cake with both hands. "Happy birthday, Grandma," she said brightly. For a moment, Martha froze. Then she laughed, a sound so pure and fragile it filled the room like sunlight. Tears rolled down her cheeks as she reached out to touch the little girl's face. "Thank you, sweetheart. You just gave me the best birthday gift of my life." Ethan set the flowers in an old vase and helped light the candle. They sang together, their voices mixing with laughter and warmth. The room that once echoed with silence now glowed with life again. That simple afternoon changed everything. Ethan began visiting Martha regularly. He fixed her broken porch, replaced her leaky faucet, and helped organize her medicine. Lily would bring drawings, stories, and laughter that made the old woman's eyes sparkle like a child's as weeks turned into months. Their bond deepened. Ethan found in Martha the warmth of a grandmother Lily had never known, and Martha found in them the family she thought she'd lost forever. But life, as it often does, threw another challenge their way. One cold winter evening, Ethan got a call. Martha had fallen from her wheelchair while trying to reach a cupboard. He rushed to the hospital, heart pounding, Lily clutching his hand tightly. The doctor said she'd broken her hip and her health was fragile. For days, she drifted between sleep and pain, sometimes murmuring Ethan's name, sometimes whispering her late husband's. Ethan sat by her bed every night, holding her hand, whispering, "You're not alone anymore." One morning, as sunlight poured gently through the hospital window, she opened her eyes. Her voice was weak, but her smile was radiant. "Ethan," she whispered, "thank you for walking over that day." He couldn't hold back his tears. "We should be thanking you, Martha. You reminded us what love and kindness mean." She reached out to touch his face, her fingers trembling. "Promise me something," she said softly. "Promise you'll never let Lily forget kindness. That's the only thing that keeps the world beautiful." He nodded, his heart breaking and healing all at once. Martha passed peacefully that night. But she didn't leave behind emptiness. She left behind light. Ethan and Lily organized a small memorial in her garden, planting daisies around a wooden bench where she once sat. Every spring, those flowers bloomed bright and white, swaying in the wind like smiles from heaven. And every year, on her birthday, Ethan and Lily would bring cupcakes, light a candle, and whisper, "Happy birthday, Grandma Martha. Thank you for walking back into our hearts." Because sometimes, it takes just one moment of kindness, a single step toward another soul, to change the meaning of someone's entire life.